You can't count on Derek's taunt skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
Getting every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
Hello and welcome to a fresh hour of CBS Sports HQ alongside CBS Sports college football insider Richard Johnson. I am Hakeem Dermish. We are awaiting the second set of college football playoff rankings, and we'll have wall-to-wall coverage, including a full bracket breakdown. Friendly reminder, there's one major change in year two of the 12-team playoff. Here's a quick refresher. The top four seeds will get a bye into the quarterfinals. This format replaces the conference champion model that was used last year. The five highest-ranked conference champions are still guaranteed a spot in the field, maintaining access for the group of five. However, those champions will no longer receive preferential seeding. The bracket will be ordered directly from numbers 1 through 12 based on the final rankings. Tonight, the second of 6 CFP reveals, with the final rankings announced on December 7th as Selection Sunday. All right, back here with Richard Johnson. Let's welcome in the host of the Cover 3 podcast, Chip Patterson, CBS Sports HQ college football analyst. Let's start here with the ACC. The ACC did not do itself any favors. Both Virginia and Louisville both lost in Week 11, making it more likely that the ACC will be a one-bid conference. One loss, Georgia Tech, poised to make the projected field tonight. And Richard, look, this ACC is essentially cannibalizing itself and going to need to make some moves here in the final weeks.
Too many losses. They better hope Georgia Tech ends up being the conference champion here so that the Bees get in and kind of guarantee the ACC a spot. I think the ACC, too many losses, too much in the pecking order, I should say. And look, you got an ACC where even their best teams, right, in the ACC just do not have a very strong strength of schedule. You were expecting Miami to kind of be the bell cow here, right? You were expecting Miami at least halfway through the season to be in a top 4 seed, to be honest with you. But they just have not been able to do it. You've got Georgia Tech with the 71st strength of schedule in the country. Strength of schedule for Louisville, 62nd. Pitt, 82nd. Virginia, 75th. So if Miami's not going to hold up their end of the bargain here with 2 losses and be on the outside looking in, you've got other teams that aren't really pulling the freight in the league.
Yeah, I would have to say, Hakeem, that we have to also look at where Virginia and Louisville are. The teams that lost this weekend, Chandler Morris gets knocked out of the game in a low-scoring loss against Wake Forest where there was not a single offensive touchdown to be found. Yeah, Jim Grubb, kiss of excellence at that one for the Demon Deacons. But then also Louisville. You listen to Jeff Brom after that game, he doesn't sound, to me, my opinion, that he has any confidence in Miller Moss, his offense, his current quarterback situation. You could tell as much by some of the play calling. So even some of those other teams that we're looking at right now, Duke needed a 2-point conversion to be able to beat Clemson. And, oh, yeah, by the way, they just lost at UConn. Even among the contenders, if it ain't Georgia Tech, it's not a team that you feel real confident about. So, yeah, I am reserved to thinking that the ACC is going to be a one-bid league. But I think that even of more concern for the ACC is whoever they send, their form, as we talk right now in mid-November, ain't great.
And we could also see the Big 12 being a one-bid conference as well. We'll continue the discussion here on CBS Sports HQ with Chip Patterson and Richard Johnson as we continue here on our college football playoff rankings show. When the rankings come out, again, we will react to all of the teams that are in the field. Could we see the Hoosiers actually slip one spot? That's next on CBS Sports HQ.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
It's a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount+.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Mommy was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman, new season, streaming November 16th, only on Paramount+.
Survivor is always evolving. This is your moment.
I will try to be brave, but not on day one.
This is your season.
Red Alert, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
I'm gonna start. What? You're going to die tonight.
What are you talking about?
Unless you give it what it wants.
I want to play.
Someone at this law firm knew they were fueling an epidemic.
You come forward now, you're just a crazy old lady with no evidence.
You didn't see this coming, did you now?
Each of you will represent your hometown.
These 15 artists battling to take over the world.
I want to put Hawaii on the map, and not just in that little box on the bottom corner.
Ink Master Hometown Heroes. New season, now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Being on the road, I don't think it's a job. I think it's a calling.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it?
Can you handle it?
The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
It's so loud in here. Oh man, this is awesome. The power. Oh my goodness, what a performance.
My name is Francois Crutchfield, but everybody calls me Crutch.
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
Crutch, we got a lot of experience with grown kids that's never ready to leave the nest. You need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now.
You can't count on Derek's tongue skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Back here on CBS Sports HQ, back here with Richard Johnson and Chip Patterson. The rankings are being unveiled as we speak right now. Cincinnati, South Florida, Tennessee, Pitt, and Iowa, our first 5 teams. Richard, South Florida jumping off the page right now as perhaps the group of 5 representative.
Yeah, welcome to the party, USF. We'll see how long you last. Got Navy coming up here pretty soon. Can struggle with that Navy team. Has USF. We'll see. Also, Cincinnati kind of sneaking back in. I'm not sure Cincinnati played last weekend. I think they were off after getting absolutely drubbed by Utah, but Cincinnati rolls back into the rankings.
Yeah, I would also have to say, Iowa, you're still in the rankings. This is a great sign for Oregon. That means that the Oregon result is something that's going to be good for the Ducks. So this was a selection committee that already had Oregon ranked lower than the AP and the coaches poll. And so you're like, oh goodness, this selection committee, they don't respect that. And you wondered, given what we saw from Texas Tech, given what we saw from some of the other teams right there in that sort of edge of the top 10 range, whether this would be a situation where Oregon actually did not gain anything. The fact that Iowa is still there inside the top 25 after being at 20 last week, to me, that is a great sign for the Ducks, and that is a great sign for the Big Ten.
Well, and we just found out that Louisville and Virginia have dropped 5 spots, both. Louisville coming in at 20, Virginia coming in at 19 after both losing in Week 11. And, Richard, there's a scenario here, a doomsday scenario, where the ACC does not make the college football playoff.
Yeah, we do need to talk about this because there is a doomsday scenario where if Duke wins the ACC, specifically the Duke Blue Devils, if the Blue Devils can win the ACC, there's a chance that the ACC gets frozen out entirely from the college football playoff. Remember, it is the highest ranked conference champions, 5 conference champions that make the dance. So walk with me here. If SMU loses to either Louisville or Cal, they will drop down. If Pitt loses to either Georgia Tech or Miami, not Notre Dame, that doesn't matter for the ACC standings, not a conference game. If Pitt loses to either Georgia Tech or Miami, if Virginia loses to Duke on Saturday, and then Duke wins out in the conference championship game over, presumably, Georgia Tech, Duke would be a 4-loss ACC champion. Now, while they would be a power conference champion, it doesn't mean that a 4-loss Duke would make the college football playoff, especially if, let's say, Tulane wins out in the American and becomes the American Conference champion with 2 losses. You will recall that Tulane beat Duke earlier this season. The tricky thing will then be, Hakeem, what the committee would do if James Madison were to win out and be a 12-1 Sun Belt champion. In my opinion, that would then put basically James Madison and Duke neck and neck for the final spot for the college football playoff. And that doesn't even bring into if USF were to win out and win the American. You see USF ranked right now in this week's rankings. So that is a doomsday scenario for the ACC. And that, if that happens, there's a chance the ACC could miss. There's a chance the ACC could miss the college football playoff entirely if that were to happen.
And Chip, two ACC teams joining the top 25 here. Georgia Tech coming in at 16, Miami coming in at 15. Your reaction to those teams moving up in the rankings here?
Sure, we've got some shuffling there. The Miami Hurricanes are not going to get a boost for what they did to Syracuse. Georgia Tech, obviously, off this week as they prepare for their closing stretch and trying to make sure that they get to Charlotte. But on Richard's point, I think that for the ACC, it would be that 13th data point that you have to hang your hat on and that you would be beating the drum for if you are Jim Phillips and if you're trying to sway the committee at all, because the 13th data point for Duke in that case, if they beat Georgia Tech, well, that's a quality win. We talk about the Yellow Jackets right now inside the top 20. James Madison would not face that kind of opponent. And so I think that last quality win, even if the difference in losses would be 3 with a 1 loss and a 4 loss, I still think that would be something that if you were trying to make the argument, if you were trying to sway the tie-breaking votes, you would ultimately lean on what did they do? Did they beat a quality opponent on the first Saturday in December? In the doomsday scenario, the answer would be yes.
Yeah, Chip, again, if you're stacking up a hypothetical 4-loss Duke against James Madison for that final spot in the college football playoff, that 12 seed, you'd have to consider that James Madison has an 85th ranked strength of schedule. James Madison got their pop against a power conference team in Louisville earlier in the season, and they lost that game. So James Madison doesn't get a lot of chances to make up for it. They have the 91st ranked strength of schedule remaining for the rest of the season. So, yeah, they may be neck and neck, and there may be a 3-loss gulf between the teams, but that 13th data point is important, as you're saying.
BYU dropping 5 spots. We'll continue to react here. More reaction to the newest college football playoff rankings. Alabama plays Oklahoma this week. It's a playoff eliminator for the 2-loss Sooners. That's coming up next on here on CBS Sports HQ. Chip Patterson, Richard Johnson. Stay with us. You're watching CBS Sports HQ. Keep it locked.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
No, that is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount+.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Mommy was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman, new season, streaming November 16th, only on Paramount+.
Survivor is always evolving. This is your moment.
I will try to be brave, but not on day 1.
This is your season.
Red Alert, now streaming on Paramount+.
I'm gonna start. What? You're going to die tonight.
What are you talking about?
Unless you give it what it wants.
I want to play.
Someone at this law firm knew they were fueling an epidemic.
You come forward now, you're just a crazy old lady with no evidence.
You didn't see this coming, did you now?
Each of you will represent your hometown.
It's 15 artists battling to take over the world.
I want to put Hawaii on the map, and not just in that little box on the bottom corner.
Ink Master Hometown Heroes, new season, now streaming exclusively on Paramount+.
Being on the road, I don't think it's a job. I think it's a calling.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it? crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
It's so loud in here. Oh, man, this is awesome. The power. Oh, my goodness. What a performance.
My name is Francois Crutchfield, but everybody calls me Crutch.
Crutch. We got a lot of experience with grown kids that's never ready to leave the nest. You need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now.
You can't count on Derek's tongue skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
In the Champions League, every picture tells a story. And every great story
Would you believe this?
needs an audience.
Paris Saint-Germain have won the Champions League. It's a really special moment.
Step inside the frame and feel every match, every goal,
Truly remarkable.
every moment of the world's best soccer.
Shakespearean drama, that's all you can say.
The UEFA Champions League. Every goal, every game, live on Paramount Plus.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
That is a rookie mistake.
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
Let's go save the universe.
Now that's more like it.
Are you ready to laugh
Nailed it.
till you turn blue?
Oh, no.
That got weird.
Smurfs. Rated PG. Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Everything South Park is streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, everyone, listen up.
Every character, every story, every season.
That sounds like so much fun!
Everything South Park. All season, 2 episodes and more. Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
The second set of college football playoff rankings have been released, and we've got some new teams into the field. Here's a look at the top 12. Oklahoma and BYU are the first two teams out because South Florida has now joined the party as the group of 5 representative, and Miami, coming in at 15th this week, will become the 11th seed in the projected field as you take a look at the top 25. And look, we're going to have some changes here in the projected field. Now we've got a new ACC representative and we've got a new group of 5 representative. The top 4 remain the same: Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia coming in at 5. Texas Tech moves up 2 spots after its win over BYU. BYU falling 5 spots to 12. And everybody's sort of just moving up a spot with the results from week 11. Back here with CBS Sports college football insider Richard Johnson. Let's welcome in 2 more guests. 2-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and Ohio State great Beanie Wells. Men, good to be with you here. Richard, I'll go your way first. Just your initial takeaways of the projected field and the top 25 rankings.
You know, I was wondering how far BYU was going to fall. BYU falls to the 12th ranking. They would be out of the hypothetical college football playoff if it started today. I think that's fine. I think Duke's resume was pretty flimsy unless they had beaten Texas Tech. Then they would have proven themselves to be a good team. Obviously, it's still in line right now to play for the Big 12 championship, so still all to play for them, as in getting into the dance, but don't know if they were going to be able to do that as an at-large seed. And right now the committee says that they would not be able to do that as an at-large seed.
BMAC, what stands out to you here in this second set of CFP rankings?
Just piggybacking on Richard's point, I think the Big 12 is set up nicely to potentially have 2 teams to get into the playoffs, seeing that BYU currently is in the top 12 and with Texas Tech, because it's safe to say when you look at the top 3 potentially in the Big 12, whoever the winner is going for sure, but that loser potentially could still get into the playoffs. And then outside of that, if you look at the SEC, I mean, there are a few teams that are currently sitting in the top 12, to say the least. I'll say the top 9, where they could have room for an error in terms of a loss, regular season loss before the season is over, and still get into the playoffs. Because when you look at the committee and how they value their strength of schedule in the SEC, and currently having four teams inside the top 8, I think the SEC is set up nicely to potentially have 4 teams for sure getting into the playoffs.
Beanie, you look at the top 12 here. You heard what both Richard and BMAC had to say. What do you have to say here when you see these second set of rankings?
You know, when I was looking at the second set of rankings, immediately I jumped to the ACC, and I'm looking at where Miami's being placed, where Georgia Tech is. And, you know, I can't say that I agree with the committee today. You know, when I look at, you know, Georgia Tech as a football team as a whole, look at their entire body of work, I think they have a much better situation than the University of Miami. Yes, Miami went out and beat Notre Dame in the earlier part of the season, but they're a completely different football team. I think Georgia Tech is a much better team than Miami, and I think they'll probably be one of the conferences that only gets one team. I can't see a scenario to where the ACC is getting 2 teams in this college football playoff, because there's still so much carnage to be had amongst that conference.
I want to go back to what BMAC said in terms of the Big 12 potentially getting in a second team. So if we have BYU and Texas Tech, let's say hypothetically in the Big 12 championship, are you putting a 2-loss BYU team in over a 2-loss, let's say, Vanderbilt team, BMAC?
Yes, I would. And the reason why is because BYU received that second loss, if this hypothetical became a reality, in conference play, in a conference championship game. Now, last year, the committee made it known that they would not penalize a team for losing in a conference championship game. That's what they said last year. And the sentiments might not be the same, but I, for one, see it as if you sustain a loss, losing in the conference championship game, you were good enough to get to that point. You shouldn't be penalized for being on the outside looking in once the playoff starts. And that second loss happened in a conference championship game. So me personally, I know Richard talked about their resume being a bit flimsy, but if they got to a conference championship game and they lost, and now that second loss kicks them out of the playoffs, I don't know if that could be something the committee could value moving forward, especially looking at college football, because now if I'm a college football coach, if I'm sitting in nicely, I don't want to go to a conference championship game, because now I might be penalized if we happen to lose. That could set a precedent moving forward that I don't know if they actually would like to stand by.
BMAC, there's another Big 12 team sitting up here that we haven't even mentioned. You could bounce BYU, and Utah could find their way to sneak in if enough of the SEC cannibalizes itself coming home here in November as well.
Yeah, you look at BYU
and
not making any move. They're still 13.
Cincinnati.
Yeah. It's a possibility. It certainly is. You're just going to have the conversation of whether it's going to be a 2-loss Big 12 team or another 2-loss SEC team. Because right now, as it stands, we have 6 SEC teams in the field currently right now, Richard.
We've been talking Drive for 5 since we've been doing this the last week or so. Texas is the really interesting one. If Texas can split these big games that they've got left against Georgia and Texas A&M, the committee will have a very intriguing case on their hands if they're going to put Texas in. I'm not so sure they're going to actually put in a 3-loss SEC team over one of these 2-loss teams, but we got to see how that shakes out coming home here with the bracket. It's going to be Texas is going to be a really, really interesting case. And then you've got Vanderbilt also right there behind Utah sitting at 14th. Could they find a way to slide up and sneak in?
I'm going to definitively say, BMAC, that there's not going to be a 3-loss SEC team in over a 2-loss Big 12 team. That's not going to happen, at least not this year.
It shouldn't, but we never know in terms of the value and what the committee sees as high-level value in terms of competition. And to Richard's point, looking at Texas is currently sitting they're at 10, right? They are a 2-loss Texas team currently sitting at 10. They have a very, very tough schedule the rest of the way, starting with Georgia this Saturday, and then of course they have A&M. But before they even get to Georgia, with Texas being at 10, the committee is telling us already how they value the SEC and how it sits to be a different conference compared to the other conferences. Think about this. Texas have 2 losses. Their first loss happened week 1 against Ohio State. The second loss happened midway through the season against Florida. Florida is a 3-win team. We just saw Florida get taken to the woodshed by Kentucky, 38-7. They lost by 31 points. So you're telling me the second Texas Longhorn loss came from the hands of a 3-loss team that just lost by 31 to Kentucky, and you currently have them in the top 10? If you're Miami, you should feel some type of way because you have the same identical record as Texas. The team that beat Texas, you blew out by 19 points. And that team is a 3-loss team. So for Miami, and when you look at the value, seeing Texas currently sitting at top 10 before they kick off against UGA this weekend, they are already telling us something, guys, without actually saying it.
B-Mac, I do think you got to take into consideration, though. You talk about Florida and how Texas lost to them. Well, we do have the number 5 team that only beat Florida by a total of, 4 or 6 points, something like that. So Florida is a solid football team in terms of how they get up for certain opponents. Now, obviously, Kentucky wasn't one of the big dogs, so they went out there and laid down. But I think you got to give that Florida loss for Texas a little bit more credit and respect, considering how they played some of their big opponents this season. When you look at how they played Miami, you look at how they played Georgia, they played up to their level of competition and made it very interesting.
Benny, they got 3
we watched
wins.
that Miami game together, actually.
They got 3 wins. You can't value anything coming from a 3-win team. And that Georgia game was all about emotions and heart. They just fired Billy Napier. It's a rival. They got up for that game, but they are who they are. Because what we saw last week to a bad Kentucky team, you cannot explain that. And that resume sits on Texas' record. They lost to Florida, who is a 3-win team. We don't know if Florida will win another ball game this season. We do not know. But everything that I'm saying now will be erased if Texas goes to Athens and beats Georgia. Because if they beat Georgia, just go ahead and throw this in the toilet, what I'm talking about now, because they would have earned their right to be in the top 10. I'm just talking about right now before they kick off against Georgia. I'm scratching my head a little bit seeing Texas in the top 10, knowing one of their losses came from a 3-win team in the Gators.
I'm not on the committee, but Texas and Oklahoma will not make the field. Go ahead and bookmark that right now. November 11th.
I don't know that Oklahoma.
They're not.
I don't know that Oklahoma wins out, to be honest.
No, they're not.
Oh, no. Hey, Hakeem, can I give you a hypothetical real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
What happens if Texas loses to Georgia but beat an undefeated A&M team at the end of the season?
That's where BMAC is where things are going to get really interesting, especially if it falls that way. Then what do you do with that 3-loss Texas that would also have a really, really good win? That's where you kind of see how the rest of this breaks and how the teams around them. Where is BYU as opposed to winning the conference? You know, what would happen to Oklahoma? How does Oklahoma finish in that reality? Does Oregon take another loss? Does Oregon lose to USC next week? Like, how do these things break to see if Texas could be able to get in that reality?
3 and out. That's what I'm in football terms. 3 and out. It's 3 and out. You lose 3 games, you're out. I don't care if you beat Beanie Wells' best team at Ohio State. You're out. You're out right now. That's the measuring stick. Let's take a look at the projected bracket here, because this is fun when you take a look at what the matchups could be here. South Florida, Georgia in the first round in Athens. Could set up a rematch between Georgia and Alabama. Notre Dame and Oregon, so we could see Ohio State have to play those 2 teams for the 2nd year in a row. Of course, Ohio State had to play Oregon in the 2nd round because Oregon was sitting there as the 1 seed. They played Notre Dame in the national championship, OHIO. Miami and Texas Tech, that could be fun. Maybe we get Texas Tech and Texas A&M, a little battle there. That would be in the semifinals. Texas and Ole Miss, okay, they didn't play this year at all, but the winner would move on to face Indiana. Richard, you look at the bracket here, and there's a lot of tantalizing matchups. What's the first-round matchup here that you're going, oh, man, make sure that you're locked into this game?
That first round, Miami, Texas Tech at home, potentially in Lubbock. Tortillas flying. That would be an incredible atmosphere. You saw what it looked like Saturday afternoon when BYU and the eyes of the nation were on Texas Tech. I would love to see Texas Tech host Miami in this hypothetical game, just what the atmosphere would be there. That would be that Texas Tech team, quite frankly, paying off, quite literally, all the hype,
$25 million roster,
all the investment that they've made into that roster to be able to make the postseason. That would be so huge for Texas Tech to be in that spot. And you know, we talk about this amongst each other. This is not the biggest deal in the world, but I do think it is important. The college football playoff should reseed.
Oh, yeah.
After the first round, the number one ranked team in the college football playoff should play the lowest seed remaining, just like they do in the NFL. I don't really understand why they don't do that. It doesn't make any sense. The second round games are neutral site games, so you're not giving anybody any home advantage or home disadvantage. It doesn't matter. The college football playoff should reseed. I know it's not the biggest deal in the world.
It is a big deal.
It is ridiculous to me.
It is, but you know what they're going to do? They're going to make an incremental change, and this won't be incremental because this will be significant. They'll make a change every year they go, so they can say, well, we had progress, right, B-Mac? They said the next year we took the top 4 highest ranked teams. The next year we reseeded. The following year we pressed it to 16 teams. The following year we allowed 2 group of 5 teams in. That might be what happens, but they really should. That is a big deal. Reseeding is a massive deal in the playoffs. B-Mac, you heard what Richard said. Do you agree with that?
That makes too much sense,
yeah,
Richard.
Exactly.
So they won't do it. So they won't do it.
That makes too much sense. I think this is what happens when you allow people to be in control of something where they really don't understand the sport. That's how I look at it.
Well, there's a lot of athletic directors on this committee. Look, there's a lot of ball
they don't understand. They ain't watching football. They ain't watching football religiously.
Fair,
They're only watching football because they have to be forced to watch football. We all watch football because I love it. If I wasn't working with CBS, guess what I would be doing every Saturday outside of watching my son play football? I'm watching college ball because I love it.
No doubt.
My heart is invested in it before I became a paid analyst. That's different. I'm going to watch it anyway. You talk about the committee, and the reason why I'm saying that, this is just my opinion, folks. I could be right, I could be wrong. But the reason why I'm saying that is because of the disconnect and the lack of organization that has been associated with the NCAA in totality, with football, but primarily with this whole playoff system. To Richard's point, why there's no reseeding. The NFL, we just highlighted the NFL playoff brackets 1 through 7. My first Super Bowl team, we were a 16. Guess what? As we advanced, we played the highest seeded team because we were a 6th seeded team. That makes too much sense. So it probably won't happen, Richard, but that's a great idea, but it makes too much sense, and we're going to continue to go ahead and go through it this way and just enjoy these talented players that put forth their best effort week in and week out.
Now, I can tell you what I do not want to see, and I do want to see change, and that's most certainly how they evaluate the group of 5 team getting in this thing. I do not want to see a 2-loss group of 5 team in the college football playoff. There's so many other teams in the group of 4 that potentially would be worth that spot. I would much rather see a 2-loss ACC team, even though their conference has been down this season, over a 2-loss group of 5 team in this college football playoff. I think it makes no sense whatsoever. I think that automatic bid has to get some change as this thing moves further along, because I do believe that there's more deserving teams. Heck, I'd even take an additional SEC team in over this 2-loss group of 5 potentially.
The other thing about the reseeding conversation that we're having there is it also incentivizes the bye. Right now, you don't really have the biggest incentive possible for these teams to play for the bye. You got people saying, I don't even want to be in a conference championship game. I'd rather be the 5 seed or what have you. You need to incentivize the bye. So you incentivize the bye by reseeding the bracket after the first round. To Beanie's point, man, I got to tell you, there's a way that if a 4-loss ACC team a 4-loss ACC champion in Duke wins that league, the ACC could be out in the cold, and you could have 2 group of 5 teams in the college football playoff.
You could have South Florida and James Madison.
Because in that reality, you'd have 4-loss Duke going up against, a 12-1, hypothetically, James Madison Sun Belt champ for that 12 seed in the college football playoff bracket. I think Duke would probably get it in there, but that's not a given. That is not a given.
I can't imagine that. A 4-loss team in the playoffs? Wow. No, thank you. I don't care what conference from they're in. Brian McFadden, Beanie Wells, Richard Johnson, love the conversation. We'll continue to react here on CBS Sports HQ. This just into CBS Sports HQ. Milwaukee Brewers skipper Pat Murphy has been named National League Manager of the Year for the 2nd consecutive season. Murphy is the 3rd manager to win back-to-back back-to-back awards, joining the Braves' Bobby Cox and the Rays' Kevin Cash. Projected to win around 85 games, the Brewers overcame a slow start to rack up a Major League best 97 victories on their way to a second straight NL Central Division crown. Brewers advanced to the NLCS, but were swept by the eventual World Series champion Dodgers. Coming up, more reaction to the second set of college football playoff rankings. Ohio State remains #1 as they chase back-to-back natties. That's next on CBS Sports HQ.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount+.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Monty was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman, new season, streaming November 16th, only on Paramount+.
Survivor is always evolving. This is your moment.
I will try to be brave, but not on day one.
This is your season.
זה בקיבוץ? בואי נלך הביתה.
Red Alert, now streaming on Paramount+.
I'm gonna start. What? You're going to die tonight.
What are you talking about?
Unless you give it what it wants.
I want to play.
Someone at this law firm knew they were fueling an epidemic.
You come forward now, you're just a crazy old lady with no evidence.
You didn't see this coming, did you now?
Each of you will represent your hometown.
It's 15 artists battling to take over the world.
I want to put Hawaii on the map, and not just in that little box on the bottom corner.
Inkmaster Hometown Heroes, new season, now streaming exclusively on Paramount+.
Being on the road, I don't think it's a job. I think it's a calling.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it?
Can you handle it?
The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount+.
It's so loud in here. Oh man, this is awesome. That power. Oh my goodness, what a performance.
My name is Francois Crutchfield, but everybody calls me Crutch.
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
Crutch, we got a lot of experience with grown kids that's never ready to leave the nest. You need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now.
You can't count on Derek's tong skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
The second set of college football playoff rankings have been released. Here's a look at the top 12 teams. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama. So the top 4 remain the same, as do Georgia coming in at 5, followed by Texas Tech. They're moving up after their win over BYU. Ole Miss drops a spot, going to 7. Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, and BYU dropping 5 spots. So the first 2 teams out, Oklahoma and BYU. That's because welcome to the field, South Florida, USF, Alex Golesh. What a program and what a season they have had. They are a 2-loss team, but they are the projected group of 5 team. They lost to Miami and got tripped up on the road at Memphis. And the ACC representative right now would be Miami. So they would play Texas Tech in the first round. You see Notre Dame and Oregon clashing, and Texas and Ole Miss in the first round, as we take a look at the projected bracket after the second set of CFP rankings. 11 games to be played, culminating with the national championship in Miami. That would be wild if Miami got into the field and the national championship was at their home stadium. It would be wild, right?
LSU did it in 2019.
Would be wild.
LSU made the college football playoff, won the national championship in the Superdome right down the road.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's kind of technical.
But
it's not their actual home stadium, though.
Yeah.
It's not their home stadium.
But it's about as close as it is to Coral Gables.
I agree. We're playing home games here. Richard Johnson's back. So is Bryant McFadden and Beanie Wells. And I want to take a look at the top 4 teams here. We know Alabama came in at 4, but there was a conversation among us before the show. Should Ohio State still be number 1? Indiana 2, Texas A&M 3? Because, Richard, as you take a look at the resume comparison, there's an argument to be had that the Aggies could be number 1 this week because of their win over a ranked Missouri team.
Yeah, I wonder what Indiana's close shave against Penn State. Maybe they wanted to put Indiana right over Ohio State and flip those, but Indiana would have had to really dominate Penn State, which they didn't do. They got over the hump there, and they won a tough road game the way that they did, but, they don't cover the spread in that game. It's closer than it should have been. And so, yeah, you see Texas A&M, though, they're sitting at 3, and you wonder if A&M is able to beat Texas later in the season, and if A&M is able to win the SEC, would they jump whichever team were to win the Big Ten out of presumably Ohio State and Indiana?
Yeah, because it would be the Big Ten champion and Texas A&M, right? That would come down to, because right now, Beanie, you look at the resume comparison, you see Texas A&M, their strength of schedule to date is 8.
Yeah, I mean, Texas A&M is a great football team, but I still think you cannot go too far away from the eye test. We've seen Texas A&M be challenged and taken to the wire. I talked about it last week. You go back to the game versus Notre Dame. That game could have went either way, and it was decided, obviously, on a last-minute field goal. There were some missed calls potentially in that game that could have shifted it. But then you go back to even further, or maybe sooner, and look at the Arkansas game. That's a game that we could have saw Texas A&M be knocked off again. So I can't go too far away from the eye test. And when I look at Ohio State, they are far and beyond the best team in the country based off of how they win games. They're not a team that has to go out there and push the envelope and push the gas offensively. They can slowly and methodically beat you on the offensive side and then just stifle you with that tough defense that they have. So I can't go away from what I'm seeing with my eyes. I know we look at strength of schedule, we look at style points, but we look at teams and how they're built. This Ohio State team is built different. Completely different from anybody else in that top 4. That's why I think they are deserving of that number 1 spot. A team, in my opinion, that could honestly shift off is Alabama. I look at the way Alabama just played last week at LSU. They weren't able to run the ball successfully. And we all know, as former athletes, down the stretch in November, you're going to have to be able to run the football. And their last 2 outings, versus South Carolina and versus LSU, 56 yards as a team and 72 yards as a team. Alabama's just creeping by some of these games. They're no longer looking like one of the better teams in the country, in my opinion. I'd have Georgia above them. But nonetheless, when we talk about those top 3, Ohio State is most certainly it. And you can just look at them. Just watch that game, watch the games that they played, and tell me there's a better lineup top to bottom than this Buckeyes team.
B-Mac, do you agree with Beanie's evaluation of Ohio State? Because we talk about how Texas A&M defense is so good. Ohio State is allowing 7.2 points per game. That's fewest in the nation.
I agree with Beanie in terms of Ohio State and how they've looked. And I don't think you should knock Ohio State for playing against lesser competitive teams when you look at what Texas A&M has gone through, because they are the reigning champions, right? National champions, and they haven't shown any reason to remove them. But I disagree with Beanie when you talk about A&M and the overall body of work that A&M has put forth. You talked about the close ball game to Arkansas. Yes, that was a close ball game. There was another 6-point win against Auburn. But they have 3 ranked wins. The only other team currently in the top 12, currently in the top 25, that has a more impressive resume than A&M is Alabama. Yep. Alabama currently has 4 ranked wins. You look at what those 2 teams have, they have the most impressive body of work out of any team currently in the top 25. So if you're talking about having a shakeup, in my opinion, based on what we saw with Indiana barely winning, barely beating Penn State, I think you could make a strong case for A&M to be the second best team this week, right behind Ohio State. I would never think about moving Ohio State. They haven't lost. Regardless of who they're beating up on, They are the reigning national champions. But for Indiana, I think you can make a strong case for Texas A&M being at number 2 because they're both undefeated. The only ranked win Indiana has is what? Oregon, right? And the committee, they're not valuing Oregon like they once did.
I got to challenge you because when you look at how the evaluators and the individuals who had the votes in AP, they were not legitimately ranking the Big Ten properly. Iowa should have been ranked a long time ago. USC should have been ranked a long time ago. We look at Illinois, they should have been ranked a long time ago. And because you have these individuals who are in charge of voting with the AP, some of these people are not even watching the games and they're just deciding, okay, we're going to make this team rank. We're going to make this team rank. We aren't going to rank this team. So it wasn't a proper evaluation on the Big Ten. That's the only thing I have to challenge you on. When you talk about strength of schedule and certain teams that, have ranked wins, well, not all of those ranked wins are created equally because some of those teams potentially should not have been ranked and some of those should have been.
Yeah, these are facts. I mean, the people are late on the bandwagon because they should have been on the bandwagon a long time ago on Iowa. That's a really good point right there because good on Iowa being ranked again this week, even in that loss to Oregon. That was a heck of a football game watching when you talk about eye test. But also let's mention, because he said you heard 3 ranked wins. There's no other team in the top 12. Miami does have 3 ranked wins on their schedule this season.
Well, I'll say this. You know what I think about ranked wins?
I agree.
Alabama, it's a ranked loss against Florida State.
Yep.
What is that Florida State team actually? It was not a good loss back in September. But, that Florida State team has not really done much of anything through the balance of the season. We do have to remember that the committee does use computer metrics. They use strength of schedule. They use strength of record, an enhanced strength of record metric, and that doesn't really factor in much the human polls really at all. They do their own thing, and it's one of the reasons why they take 48 hours after the games have been done, 72 hours after the games have been done to produce their rankings. One thing I will say, though, this is never going to happen because we got to have the marquee matchups week 1. But I would love for Ohio State, Texas to be right now. I would love for Texas A&M, Notre Dame to be right now. I would love for Oklahoma, Michigan to be right now. I'd love for these big out-of-conference games to potentially be in November so that we could actually measure these teams when they're closer to being a finished product, not when they're a completely incomplete product coming off of an offseason with no preseason. Because we watched that Alabama-Florida State game, and we both made wild proclamations about both of those teams. And both of those teams have now gone completely different directions over the balance of their season. So I'd love to have some of these massive out-of-conference games actually in November when we just have a better measure of the teams.
When you look at these top 4, Richard, do you have an issue with the top 4? Would you put Texas A&M above Indiana? Because some people are calling Texas A&M overrated. I'm not really sure why you would call the Aggies overrated. I mean, the body of work they have, I get it. The 1-point loss, the 1-point win over Notre Dame was close. I know there's been some situations where things have been dicey. But at the end of the day, they won. And the same thing you can say about Indiana. We saw one of the greatest catches you'll ever see from Omar Cooper Jr. They still won the football game.
I just don't really think it matters if you're in this top 4. Okay. Like, if you're in the top 4, the 4 of these teams, they're going to have a chance to, in my opinion, have a little mini playoff for the byes if all of them win out and all of them make their conference championship games. Then we're going to take the 2 conference championship winners, we're going to keep them in the top 4, and in my opinion, we're going to boot the conference championship losers out of the top 4. Obviously, they'll still make the dance, but they'll be out of the top 4 and they won't get the byes. And I think that's fine. So I know that Texas A&M fans right now may just want, for vanity's sake, to be ahead of Indiana and ahead of Ohio State. But let's see what happens after they beat, presumably, Texas and Alabama coming down the stretch here, and then let's see how the rankings fall.
Well, and also, too, and Beanie, look, we know that what's going to end up happening here, right, is it's not going to be Ohio State and Indiana because it'll likely be the winner of the Big Ten championship and the winner of the SEC championship, depending on how it goes, 1 or 2, and then the losers would end up being 3 or 4.
Right. There's no doubt about it. That's the way it's just going to shake out. But when we look at these teams and we look at, how they're orchestrated, you have to wonder, and my mind just keeps going to the SEC, how much carnage is going to happen before we even get to, college conference championship weekend. I think there's so many things that are going to be shaken up by the time we get there, that this is going to be a completely different slate of teams in position to be in that top four. I could see a situation where, Texas, they've been looking good to where they could potentially win out this thing. So I could see a situation where Georgia, is taken off of their throne in that fifth spot where they're sitting right now and shaking things up in the SEC, and them not even getting into the SEC title game. So there's so much that can happen. I can't wait to watch it all unfold. But nonetheless, we could be talking about a completely different group of teams here in the next couple of weeks, which I personally do believe that'll be the case.
Yeah, because the games are going to impact this. The results will have the implications on what the field will be. And you look at who's in and who's out, and you talk about Miami being in here and South Florida being in. That seems most likely, right? For them to be the representative of the group of five. If they can win the American, South Florida will end up playing that 5 seed in the first round, Richard.
Yeah, but obviously it could also be Tulane. Tulane's
Absolutely.
able to win out and able to win the conference championship game over USF. Tulane could dance. Then obviously you've got James Madison sitting there, and James Madison has the highest. I do think it's because USF, North Texas, and Tulane, there's some cannibalization there coming as far as them playing each other potentially in a conference championship game setting. So James Madison's sitting there because James Madison has the clearest path, right? Those three American teams, in some amalgamation, they're going to play each other in the conference championship game, two of those teams. And then you've got James Madison, who kind of has some smooth sailing there to finish here 12-1. But again, I brought up earlier in the show that ACC doomsday scenario. We've been talking about it. If Duke wins the ACC, you just saw the way the group of 5 teams stack up there. An American champion and a 12-1 James Madison could find their way in the college football playoff over a 4-loss ACC champion Duke, if that's how it goes down in the ACC.
So if you're JMU, you are rooting for chaos to continue in the ACC. Beanie Wells, Bryant McFadden, and Richard Johnson here with us on CBS Sports HQ. Okay. There's plenty of games in Week 12 that will have playoff implications. We'll break down the games that will impact the CFP. We've got picks and analysis on the way. Plenty more reaction here on CBS Sports HQ. Keep it locked.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount+.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Monty was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman, new season, streaming November 16th, only on Paramount+.
Survivor is always evolving. This is your moment.
I will try to be brave, but not on day one.
This is your season.
זה בקיבוץ? בואי נלך הביתה.
Red Alert, now streaming on Paramount+.
I'm gonna start.
What?
You're going to die tonight.
What are you talking about?
Unless you give it what it wants.
I want to play.
Someone at this law firm knew they were fueling an epidemic.
You come forward now, you're just a crazy old lady with no evidence.
You didn't see this coming, did you now?
Each of you will represent your hometown.
It's 15 artists battling to take over the world.
I want to put Hawaii on the map, and not just in that little box on the bottom corner.
Ink Master Hometown Heroes, new season, now streaming exclusively on Paramount+.
Being on the road, I don't think it's a job. I think it's a calling.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it?
Can you handle it?
The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount+.
It's so loud in here. Oh man, this is awesome. That power. Oh, my goodness. What a performance.
My name is Francois Crutchfield, but everybody calls me Crutch.
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
Crutch, we got a lot of experience with grown kids that's never ready to leave the nest. You need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now.
You can't count on Derek's tongue skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Back here on CBS Sports HQ as we get closer and closer to the top of the hour, 8 o'clock in the East. Here's a look at the second set of college football playoff rankings. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia remain unchanged. Texas Tech moving up 2 spots after its win over BYU, as you see BYU dropping 5 spots. Look at 13 through 25, Utah remains at 13. Vanderbilt moving up a couple spots. Miami moves up 3 spots. Georgia Tech moves up a spot. So the representative right now, the projected ACC champion, would be Miami. And welcome to the party, USF coming in at 24 out of the American. All right, back here with Richard Johnson. And Richard, just your one big takeaway that you've seen so far is what?
Big 12, still alive. You got BYU sitting there. BYU doesn't tumble all the way out. They fall to 12. They'd still they would not be a seed in the college football playoff if it was played today. But they are still sitting there sneaking around the chicken coop. And then also Cincinnati getting into the rankings. It counts to boost, especially a Utah's case, that Utah smacked that Cincinnati team around. So they're the Big 12. Still around, still hanging around. It's not just Texas Tech. It's not just a presumable Big 12 champion.
So the Big 12 basically rooting for Oklahoma and Texas to go down because then they'll slot in if they can take care of business this week here in Week 12.
Yeah, and then BYU potentially getting to the Big 12 championship game and beating Texas Tech. I think that's what you really need. You really need BYU to win the league because then you have a bid stealing situation where BYU steals the bid, Texas Tech probably still gets in, and then we do it that way.
Yeah, because you are not supposed to be penalized for losing in your conference championship. So we'll see if that plays out. But certainly BYU and Utah very much alive in the college football playoff. Still ahead here on CBS Sports HQ, plenty of playoff implications in Week 12. We'll break down the games that will impact the CFP. We've got picks and analysis next on CBS Sports HQ.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Mommy was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman, new season, streaming November 16th, only on Paramount Plus.
Survivor is always evolving. This is your moment.
I will try to be brave, but not on day 1.
This is your season.
זה בקיבוץ? בואי נלך הביתה.
Red Alert, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
I'm gonna start.
What?
You're going to tonight.
What are you talking about?
Unless you give it what it wants.
I want to play.
Someone at this law firm knew they were fueling an epidemic.
You come forward now, you're just a crazy old lady with no evidence.
You didn't see this coming, did you now?
Each of you will represent your hometown.
It's 15 artists battling to take over the world.
I want to put Hawaii on the map, and not just in that little box on the bottom corner.
Inkmaster Hometown Heroes, new season, now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Being on the road, I don't think it's a job. I think it's a calling.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars. What a difference she has made.
The question is, can you handle it?
Tell me, can you handle it? A crowd
hit. Feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
It's so loud in here. Oh, man, this is awesome. That power. Oh, my goodness. What a performance.
My name is Francois Crutchfield, but everybody calls me Crutch.
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
Crutch, we got a lot of experience of grown kids that's never ready to leave the nest. You need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now.
You can't count on Derek's tong skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
Plenty of playoff implications in Week 12. Notre Dame riding a 7-game winning streak, traveling to Pitt. Alabama plays Oklahoma. It's a playoff eliminator for the 2-loss Sooners. Speaking of playoff eliminators, 2-loss Texas taking on Georgia. Last season, Dogs defeated the Longhorns in the regular season and then again in the SEC title game. And for more, welcome in two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and Sportsline data scientist Mackenzie Brooks. Good to be with both of you. Let's start with Mackenzie Brooks' alma mater, Georgia. Bulldogs are 6.5-point favorites against Texas. Georgia spent the most time trailing during a 9-0 or 8-1 start by any FBS team since 2005 UCLA. The Dogs have trailed for more than 201 minutes this year. BMAC, they're a second-half team. Had us in the first, but they get you in the second. Do you trust Georgia, though, BMAC, to cover the number?
No question, I trust Georgia in this spot. You talked about their inability to get off to a really good start and just making the timely adjustments in the second half. Well, what we saw last week was Georgia finally put together 4 quarters of play. The defense played for 4 quarters, and that is the telling sign for me that they're starting to exercise some of those demons defensively and get back on the right foot in terms of how we viewed Georgia defensively over the past few glorious years. And then secondly, let's put some respect on Gunnar Stockton's name. He's been balling. I know Ty Simpson has been getting most of the praise in the SEC, deserving so. Trinidad Chambliss has been getting the praise, but Gunnar Stockton has been balling, especially against AP top 25 games. In 3 of those matchups, he's averaged 244 yards through the air. He's completed around 75% of his passes, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in 3 top 25 matchups thus far. And this game is in Athens. You know Athens is going to be upside down. I like Georgia to take care of business.
Yeah, the only SEC quarterback with 9 or more passing touchdowns over his last 3 games in conference play. Mackenzie, what are the implications for Texas if the Longhorns lose this game?
Yeah, this is obviously one of the biggest impact games. I mean, Texas is a team we've talked about through playoff implications all year. Now, the big storyline recently has been, are we getting a 5th SEC team or a 2nd Big 12 team? So a lot of this also has to do with BYU and Texas Tech and what we just saw happen this past weekend. But I think there's a pretty good chance this Texas team could even still go 10-2. So we like them to make the college football playoff. We give them a 42% chance right now. If they take a win in Athens, they go up to a 63% chance. But I think the more interesting note here is if they do lose in Athens, they only go to a 23% chance, right? They're not completely out of that conversation here. And a really interesting note that we have about that is that we think they can beat Texas A&M at the end of the year. So maybe it's not this conversation of a 3 loss in your conference. Maybe it's just the 2 losses because Texas A&M at home, we give Texas a 55% chance to beat them. So obviously you're hoping the Big 12 cannibalizes itself. That's what allows you as a 9-3 Texas to still get into the playoff. But there's still a chance, Vandy starts falling out. Maybe Notre Dame loses a game, obviously. So things could fall in their favor and they could still make it in, but they are not out of the conversation as a 9-3 team in any way.
If I'm supposed to believe that Texas will lose to Georgia, how am I supposed to believe that Texas can beat Texas A&M?
It's a rivalry.
In college football.
It's a rivalry too.
Mackenzie, explain that, because I'm not going to believe that. You're not going to make a believer out of me. And even I know it's any given Saturday, but I cannot see Texas beating Georgia, and I cannot see Texas beating Texas A&M at the end of the season.
Well, a lot of college football specifically, and we do this with college basketball too, is looking at home and road splits, right? I mean, that's just, you're talking about college kids here. So you look at that loss against Ohio State on the road with Arch Manning, it probably looks like a good loss at this point in the season. So this team has rebounded, and I do not think they're going to beat Georgia, but Texas A&M, I give them their flowers and I commend them for what they've done this season. 100%, they are a contender, but a lot of what their record is because of their strength of schedule. We gave them and Ole Miss for the top of our list of, hey, we don't think these are the best teams since sliced bread, but we do think the schedule at hand is going to allow them to make it to the college football playoff. And that's exactly what you're seeing. So Texas A&M still can be very vulnerable when they head to Texas.
Another playoff eliminator on the slate, 2-loss Oklahoma taking on Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Tide have won 17 straight home games. Alabama's a 7.5-point favorite. BMAC, is it Roll Tide?
It is Roll Tide. Now, I know the fan base there in Tuscaloosa, they're a bit nervous because remember, around this same time a year ago, Alabama went up to Oklahoma and they took one on the chin, right? An unexpected loss to the Oklahoma Sooners. But in this spot, especially being there at home, I like Alabama, and here's why. Ty Simpson has been one of the more efficient quarterbacks in college football. The only quarterback that has been more efficient, more accurate than Ty Simpson is Julian Sain. But outside of that, he has total command of this offense. But then when you look at their defense, they have really been an impressive group. When you look at how they started the season to where they currently sit, they do a great job in red zone defense, playing elbow defense, bending but not breaking. They're ranked 13th in college football in terms of points allowed. That's a big time plus. And then when you transition to Oklahoma, John Mateer, since returning from his injury, he's played in 4 ball games. He's not looking like the John Mateer that we saw in the first month of the season. And those 4 outings, guys, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's not playing his best football. I don't know if he's healthy or whatever the case is, but he seems to be a bit off with the entire offense. I think that caters into Alabama taking care of their business on this Saturday.
Alabama looking for a 5th win against a ranked opponent this season, which is incredible. Mackenzie, if Oklahoma were to beat Alabama, what would that mean for the Sooners?
It would help their chances 100%. I and my team aren't really putting them in that Texas conversation, and most of that has to do with projecting the outlook of the rest of the season, right? We only give them a 37% chance against Alabama to win that game. We give them a 53% chance to beat LSU and a 58% chance to beat Mizzou. And if you look at all those individually, it seems fine. When you multiply all those together, that's a 12% chance to win out. And I think that's what needs to happen for this team. And I just don't think that's what you're going to see. This is a team all year. We've had power ranked so high. We thought so highly of them in the summer, in July and August, talking about this team. John Mateer was our Heisman candidate, all of those things. But it was always the schedule that was going to bring them down, which is so frustrating for this team. Again, you see 37% chance against Alabama this weekend. So possible, yes, but just to think that they can win out those next 2 games feels a little too optimistic. So we don't give them that high of a chance, only 37% chance still if they win this game, which is upsetting. I like this team a lot, but Texas, I think, just has a better chance.
Notre Dame is another 2-loss team battling for their playoff lives. It's been that way since starting the season 0-2. Fighting Irish have won 7 straight games and will have to run the table to make the playoffs. Standing in their way this week is a ranked Pitt team. Notre Dame's a 10.5-point road favorite, BMAC. Are we going all chalk here? Do we continue with the favorites?
You know what? I was back and forth, honestly, with this game. And then when I heard Coach Pat Narduzzi speak, I'm like, yeah, I'm going all chalk. Give me Notre Dame to take care of business. When he talked about this game doesn't mean anything, it's not a must-win type situation. He can care less if Notre Dame puts up 100-plus points. Granted, he was being a bit sarcastic, but yet and still he said that. That tells me he's looking forward to next week in terms of ACC play because he knows those games are more important. I never heard a coach say that first and foremost, but hearing him say that, he understands what's at stake and how unimportant this ball game is. Not to mention their best playmaker, Desmond Reed, did not play last week. So with the statements that Narduzzi gave us is he's telling us he's going to rest their best offensive playmaker this week to hopefully have him healthy for next week ACC play, potentially. So give me Notre Dame. They're clicking. Jeremiah Love is the Jahmyr Gibbs of college football at the running back position. He is a guy, if you don't have the right gap integrity, he can take a 5-yard run and turn it into 60 or 70, and that's what we see Sonic and Jahmyr Gibbs do every given Sunday for the Detroit Lions. So he's a splitting image of Jahmyr Gibbs, and he has the same impact on the Fighting Irish offensively.
Yeah, you're right. I've never heard a coach say, I'd gladly get beat by 103 or 110 to 10, and they can put up 100 on us as long as we win the next 2 after that. He's not wrong, but he's kind of wrong because I don't want my coach to be saying that. I don't want to say, hey, let's get beat by 100. Pitt has covered 5 straight games. Mackenzie, for Pitt to make the CFP, it's pretty simple. Got to win out.
Yeah, but I mean, not really for this game. Like, this really does nothing for them. And you saw the same thing with UConn and Duke, because we know, and the ACC knows, and every team in the ACC knows that they're all competing for one bid, and that comes from winning the ACC championship. And what does this game against Notre Dame do for you? Really nothing at all. So for Pitt, they're basically staying the same, win or lose, because we know their only chance to make it is to go to Charlotte and win the ACC Conference Championship. And we don't give them that high of a chance to do that, probably around a 12% here. And it's interesting and ironic because they're a team that has really no implications here, but Notre Dame, week in and week out, have the biggest impact swings, because for Notre Dame, it is win or go home here. If they lose this game, they go down to a 1% chance. We don't like to call it 0 because this is college football and you never know what's going to happen, but they move up to an 80% chance to make the college football playoff here with a win. So not a crazy swing from where they stand right now, because they are obviously implied to beat this team. They're 10.5-point favorites. And by the way, I'd act on that spread now before it gets way bigger, or maybe take Notre Dame team total, but I'm not here to give you bets. It is just an interesting situation. We are here with the college football playoff that in Pittsburgh really doesn't need anything from this game, as clearly mentioned here, the same way we saw with UConn and Duke, but Notre Dame has basically everything on the line here.
Yeah, but look, BMAC, I would argue here that if Pitt beats Notre Dame and then wins back-to-back ACC games against Georgia Tech and Miami, look, that's a 2-loss team. Even if they don't, let's say they don't play for the ACC championship, that's a 2-loss Pitt team.
It don't matter.
All right.
It don't matter.
Okay.
Kenzie is right. It don't matter. One team is only getting in from the ACC. And for us being competitors that love
I was trying to
compete
campaign for your conference.
We take an issue to what he said, but Kenzie is right. This game means nothing because if they, let's say hypothetically speaking, they beat Notre Dame and they lose one of the remaining final games, they won't play for an ACC title. So if they don't play for an ACC title, they're not going to the playoffs, even if they beat Notre Dame this upcoming Saturday. That's why I said what I said. I think he's telling us something. Desmond Reed is not healthy, wasn't healthy last week. He's probably going to rest him. I don't know. I'm just giving my opinion to get ready for the most important game. ACC games are the most important games for Pitt because they have to get to Charlotte and win in Charlotte to be able to get into the playoffs.
I think we're in a situation where you're going to see the ACC is kind of the Big 12 of last year, where parity wasn't a good thing. In conferences like the SEC, parity is a good thing. Well, yeah, sure, we'll take all of you. We'll take 5 of you, 6 of you. But when you see, the 8th best team in your conference beating the best team in your conference, and your name's the ACC or the Big 12, it's never going to bode well for you. So for a while, we always thought there'd be 3 teams from the Big 12 and the ACC, whether that's 2 ACC, 1 Big 12, 2 Big 12, 1 ACC. But the way that BYU just lost that game, and the way they have the potential to do that again, and by the way, maybe lose to a Cincinnati and a TCU, there's a really good chance, as you just saw a few minutes ago, that we're going to only get 2 of those teams, and that opens the door for that 5th SEC team with Texas we were talking about.
Mackenzie Brooks, Bryant McFadden here with us on CBS Sports HQ. Both of you, thank you as we continue to break down the college football playoff rankings, and we look at the implications here in Week 12. Coming up on Saturday, the Big Ten on CBS takes us to East Lansing. Penn State and Michigan State battle for the land-grant trophy. 3:30 Eastern on CBS and streaming live on Paramount Plus. We'll have full Week 12 coverage right here on CBS Sports HQ. This just in to CBS Sports HQ as award season in Major League Baseball continues. Cleveland Guardians skipper Stephen Vogt is the American League Manager of the Year for a second straight season. That makes repeat winners for both the AL and the NL in the same year after the Brewers' Pat Murphy won in the National League. The first time it has happened in the 42-year history of the award. Vogt won thanks in large part to the Guardians' epic comeback in September, erasing a 15.5-game deficit to leapfrog the Tigers for the AL Central Division title, the largest such comeback in MLB history. The Guardians ended up losing in the wild card round to Detroit. Coming up, we'll break down our winners and losers from the second set of CFP rankings, who's sitting pretty and who's got some work to do. That's next on CBS Sports HQ.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Monty was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman, new season, streaming November 16th, only on Paramount Plus.
Survivor is always evolving. This is your moment.
I will try to be brave, but not on day one.
This is your season.
בקיבוץ? בואי נלך הביתה.
Red Alert, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
I'm gonna start. What? You're going to die tonight.
What are you talking about?
Unless you give it what it wants.
I want to play.
Someone at this law firm knew they were fueling an epidemic. You come forward now, you're just a crazy old lady with no evidence. You didn't see this coming, did you now?
Each of you will represent your hometown.
It's 15 artists battling to take over the world.
I want to put Hawaii on the map, and not just in that little box on the bottom corner.
Inkmaster Hometown Heroes, new season, now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Being on the road, I don't think it's a job. I think it's a calling.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it?
Tell me, can you handle it?
The crowd here feels electric. Stream the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
It's so loud in here. Oh man, this is awesome. That power. Oh my goodness, what a performance.
My name is Francois Crutchfield, but everybody calls me Crutch.
Crutch. We got a lot of experience with grown kids that's never ready to leave the nest. You need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now.
You can't count on Derek's taunt skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
That is a rookie mistake.
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah.
The second set of college football playoff rankings have been released. Here's a look at the top 12. Top 5 remain the same: Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. Texas Tech moving up a couple of spots. Ole Miss drops a spot. Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, and BYU. Sooners and Cougars would be the first 2 teams out of the bracket because we have a new team into the college football playoff field. South Florida, welcome to the party. And the representative from the ACC, the projected ACC champion, Miami. As you take a look at the projected bracket, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama would receive a first-round bye. Seeds 5 through 12 will play each other in the first round. The higher-seeded teams will play host. 11 games to be played, culminating with the national championship in Miami. Welcome in CBS Sports college football insider Richard Johnson, former ACC Player of the Year Danny Cannell, and CBS Sports HQ college football analyst Brad Crawford here to break down their winners and losers. And look, Ohio State's a big winner. That's my big winner because they're still number 1. They could have been overtaken. They were not. Richard, who's your biggest winner from the second CFP rankings?
I'm taking the Big 12 because I think the Big 12 still sits in a situation where they can get 2 teams potentially in the dance. You've got BYU sitting at 12th ranking, not seed. If the college football playoff was played tomorrow, they would not be in it. But they are in the 12th spot in the rankings. If BYU is able to make the Big 12 championship game and they're able to beat Texas Tech, I do think you could have a situation where BYU steals a bid. And so BYU gets in as the Big 12 champion, and then Texas Tech could still get in the college football playoff, and you could have 2 Big 12 teams in the dance.
I think things are setting up nicely for tonight for USC. I mean, the Trojans host Iowa, who only fell 1 spot after losing to Oregon. We talk about how many at-large teams the Big Ten has. USC is certainly one of those teams. They've got Iowa coming up. That's a ranked win opportunity. USC 7-2 right now. 1 spot ahead of Michigan because the Trojans beat the Wolverines head-to-head. And then after they play Iowa, USC travels to Oregon. That, in my opinion, could be a playoff elimination game. I know even if USC beats Oregon, Oregon's 10-2 overall, I'm not 100% sure that 10-2 Oregon is an automatic playoff bid based on some of that schedule. So USC is a team tonight that I think is a clear winner at number 17.
I'll go with the Miami Hurricanes, who made a monumental jump of 3 spots from 18 to 15, and it must have been the performance they had against Syracuse this past weekend. Well, that was a tough out for the Hurricanes. But the reason it's a big winner is because last week the conversation was they were 8 spots away from Notre Dame. That's narrowed down to 6. And I do think this was a big jump. They leapfrogged Georgia Tech, who all they did was have a bye week, so I don't know why they dropped. But Miami did play a game and did win, so they're getting closer. What Miami needs to happen is to get close enough to Notre Dame where you can put their resumes side by side, because Miami does have a better resume with more ranked wins, and they beat Notre Dame head-to-head. The problem is they're too far away. So Miami jumping 3 spots, closing that gap to 6. I think Miami was a big winner.
All right, I would agree there. Look, Miami has 3 ranked wins on its schedule in line there with Texas A&M. So we'll see what ends up happening when the final bracket is released. Richard, give us another winner from the second set of rankings.
I'm also going to take Vanderbilt quiet as it's kept.
Okay.
Vanderbilt is still sitting there within striking distance as well. And because the committee is somewhat infatuated with Tennessee and keeping Tennessee ranked, even though Tennessee is not beating a good team, Tennessee sits there ranked. They're sitting at 23. Vanderbilt plays Tennessee at the end of the season. If Vandy can beat Tennessee, I wonder if Vandy could sneak in if there's significant carnage in front of them. So Vandy, a big winner for me tonight too.
Texas Tech is my next winner, pushing ahead of Ole Miss, at least in my opinion, and the committee's eyes. It's warranted. Texas Tech beat a very good, previously unbeaten BYU team, 29-7 at home, while Ole Miss played the Citadel. Now, I know Ole Miss is likely an 11-win finisher, going to get a first-round home game, but Texas Tech moving into that 6 hole behind Georgia tonight at number 5, That means for me, there's a chance that if Texas Tech runs the table, wins the Big 12, maybe get some chaos in the Big 10 or SEC, perhaps the Red Raiders could get in that top 4 spot. So Texas Tech's a team tonight from the Big 12 I consider a winner.
I'll go with USF, who avoided the dreaded NR next to their name, which is what Memphis had last week. And they did check in at 23, despite losing to Memphis just a couple weeks ago. But they had the big win against UTSA. USF does look like they're in the driver's seat. If they win the American, they will be that Group of 5 representative. Maybe they can get a little bit higher, a little bit closer. But I do think USF was the big winner just from getting the Group of 5 acknowledgement of where they stand, how far they are. Because last week you didn't really know how far back they were from the top 25. At least now with USF, you know exactly where they stand.
Yeah, I like that the committee put them in the top 25 this week. That certainly helps us when we talk about teams' resumes and where they stand. All right, Richard, who's your biggest loser from the second CFP rankings?
Apologies to Danny, but my biggest loser is the ACC. All right, let's talk about the ACC doomsday scenario that I feel is in play here if Duke finds a way to win the ACC. Because you'd have a 4-loss Duke team winning the ACC, but here's what needs to happen. SMU needs to lose to either Louisville or Cal. Pitt needs to lose to either Georgia Tech or Miami. Doesn't matter what happens against Notre Dame. And then Virginia needs to lose to Duke, obviously, because Duke needs to win out. If that happens, Duke would be in the ACC championship game against Georgia Tech. If Duke would be able to win that game, they would be a 4-loss conference champion. Remember, the playoff takes the 5 highest-ranked conference champions. So if Duke is a 4-loss conference champion and USF, who is ranked right now in the College Football Playoff Top 25, wins out as the American champion, or frankly, Tulane wins out and wins the American because Tulane beat Duke earlier in the season, you'd have a situation where the American would get in, the American champion would get in, and then you'd sit a 4-loss Duke team and a potentially 12-1 Sun Belt champ, James Madison, for that 5th conference champion auto bid. I think Duke would get in that scenario, but I'm not sure. And that's a doomsday scenario the ACC does not want. I have ACC as another big loser tonight.
Danny, you want to respond to that as you give us another loser here as well?
Oh, the ACCs are the biggest losers on the field and off because all of this is their own fault. Yeah. Like, you can only defend them so much. So I think he's right. I don't think so. I don't want a 4-loss Duke team in the playoffs. Then I do wonder if there's an at-large potential. Like, if the team that's, like, let's say Miami doesn't make the ACC championship game, would that be the one team from the ACC could get there? But I don't want a 4-loss Duke team in there that lost to UConn. So I wouldn't have a problem with that.
I mean, speaking of doomsday scenarios, I think this is unfolding for the Big 12 very similarly. We know Texas Tech, if it runs the table, wins the conference championship game over BYU, the Red Raiders are going to get 5 or 6 seed at worst. However, Joey McGuire, there's a reason he was pounding the drum Saturday afternoon after he beat BYU, trying to vouch for the Cougars. I mean, I see a scenario tonight. I wanted to see how many at-large teams were ahead of BYU in these rankings, and there were several. Oklahoma, Texas, Notre Dame, Oregon. BYU is going to need multiple losses by a couple of those teams to get back in this at-large mix. I don't see BYU getting there. I think BYU is going to finish 11-2 and not make the playoff.
I'll go. Now, this is kind of nitpicky. I'll say Texas A&M was a loser because I thought maybe there was a chance they could jump over Indiana. Indiana needed a big drive at the end of a game against a Penn State team that is not very good. And yet the drive actually brought a lot of eyeballs, and people think Indiana's better, including myself. But it's still, what Texas A&M did at Missouri, a pretty convincing, dominant win on the road against an SEC team with a better record. I just wonder if chalk is going to hold. And I know Texas A&M still has some good games left. They have the Texas game. I just wonder if the committee looks at it and says, we're kind of status quo here. So I think Texas A&M, I thought they had a chance to maybe jump ahead of Indiana and even possibly Ohio State just from the strictly on the resume. But the committee held him pat. So I think Texas A&M was a loser.
Yeah, we talked about how the fact that whatever shakes out in the conference championship, it won't be Ohio State, Indiana if those two teams play. And if it's Texas A&M, Alabama, they won't be 3-4. It'll just flip-flop. It'll be potentially Ohio State, Texas A&M, Indiana, Alabama, or however it shakes out, right? You're not going to have 1 and 2 from the same conference. Who's another loser that stands out to you here in the second set of CFP rankings?
I have another loser from the ACC. I'm picking on Virginia here. Virginia falls after that tough loss over the weekend.
I can hear the comments now. Richard Johnson hates the ACC.
I know. I'm sorry. But you just got Virginia. They could not take another loss. It has been a dream season to date for Virginia, but unfortunately you lose that game to Wake, where it wasn't an offensive touchdown in that game. You look bad doing it, and Virginia sits there where they're pretty much locked into where they are, I think.
Yeah, I hate to stay in Virginia here, but I'm going JMU as one of my biggest losers. I mean, you wanted to see which G5 team got the sexy ranking tonight from the committee, and it was USF. JMU could win the Sun Belt, finish 12-1, but what tonight showed us where USF was ranked, JMU needs USF to lose another game. And I'm not even concerned, the American Conference champion, even if it's not the Bulls under Alex Golesh, they're likely getting that G5 bid over JMU. San Diego State's out of the mix after losing by 32 points at Hawaii. You see right there USF versus JMU, sort of how it stacks up according to the resumes. I don't see a scenario where JMU gets in. Like I said, even with a 12-1 finish, they're going to need some sexy wins, and there's just not that based on strength of schedule. So USF, by the way, I know they got blown out by Miami, but Miami keeps moving up in these rankings. As Danny mentioned, number 15 tonight. That shows me that that's a quality loss in the eyes of the committee.
All right, so we'll just keep the theme on the ACC. And I know I had Miami as a winner, but I also have them as a loser. And this is more dedicated to their fans because I got all these texts from my Miami Hurricane buddies, and they're like, so we're in? Because they're seeing a bracket now that has the Hurricanes in as the highest rated ACC team. And I'm like, nope, that's not exactly how it's going to work. So this could be one of those ones, the scenario where you're looking, if you're a Miami fan, or even some players are probably like, wait, we have renewed life. We're in the bracket. No, not so fast. And there probably is a likelihood that USF gets in and Miami doesn't, and you beat that team 49-12. That will be a rough pill to swallow for the Miami Hurricanes. So I have them as a winner and a loser tonight.
Who do you think ends up winning the ACC championship, Danny?
I'll go with Georgia Tech. I mean, I feel like their offense is good enough. Their defense is clearly a liability, and that loss to NC State wasn't great, but I'm riding my hopes on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
Well, it's too bad that Georgia Tech's game against NC State wasn't a conference game like Virginia's wasn't a conference game in that whole situation. So we'll see if Georgia Tech ends up becoming the ACC champ. For now, Miami, the projected champion out of the ACC. Richard Johnson, Danny Cannell, and Brad Crawford here on CBS Sports HQ. Men, thank you. As you take a look at the bracket, and Miami's right there for now. So is South Florida. Notre Dame and Oregon in the first round, Texas and Ole Miss. And you see the top four remain unchanged. 11 games to be played, culminating with the national championship in Miami. Coming up, a full bracket breakdown. Danny Cannell is back to fill out his bracket, and you got to see who he's got it winning it all. That's next on CBS Sports HQ.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount+.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Mommy was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman, new season, streaming November 16th, only on Paramount+.
Survivor is always evolving. This is your moment.
I will try to be brave, but not on day one.
This is your season.
זה בקיבוץ? בואי נלך הביתה.
Red Alert, now streaming on Paramount+.
I'm gonna start. What? You're going to die tonight.
What are you talking about?
Unless you give it what it wants.
I want to play.
Someone at this law firm knew they were fueling an epidemic. You come forward now, you're just a crazy old lady with no evidence. You didn't see this coming, did you now?
Each each of you will represent your hometown.
These 15 artists battling to take over the world.
I want to put Hawaii on the map, and not just in that little box on the bottom corner.
Inkmaster Hometown Heroes. New season now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Being on the road, I don't think it's a job. I think it's a calling.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars. What a difference she has made.
The question is, can you handle it?
Can you handle it?
The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
It's so loud in here. Oh, it's awesome. That power. Oh my goodness. What a performance.
My name is Francois Crutchfield, but everybody calls me Crutch.
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
Crutch, we got a lot of experience with grown kids that's never ready to leave the nest. You need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now.
You can't count on Derek's tong skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
That is a rookie mistake.
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah.
It is year 2 of the 12-team playoff. Here's a look at the projected bracket based on the first set of college football playoff rankings. These are Danny Cannell's projections, and they're also the committee's projections. We're going to get into Danny Cannell's bracket in a moment because every week we're going to be doing a full bracket breakdown with a guest analyst, and this week it is one Danny Cannell. Welcome in former ACC Player of the Year Danny Cannell here for Bracket Breakdown, filling out the bracket just like college basketball. We'll start in Athens. Georgia would host USF. Danny, are the Dogs on upset alert in this classic 12-5 matchup?
No, I think the Bulldogs would probably at least a 3-touchdown favorite, and maybe even 4, maybe around 24 would be the probably the projected point spread. And I would go ahead and roll with the Georgia Bulldogs. We saw South Florida play against the University of Miami earlier this season. They came up short, 49-12. I know they beat the Gators and they had beat Boise State, but this is a whole nother level for them. So I have Georgia rolling.
All right, so the Bulldogs beat the Bulls of USF. In the next projected matchup, Notre Dame would travel to Eugene to play Oregon. Who's advancing to play Ohio State?
So this is one where I do think the battle-tested nature would come into play because, again, this is projected Oregon getting there, which means they would have beaten USC. They would have beaten better teams. Notre Dame has Pitt this weekend, but I don't feel like they've been tested as much. And I don't see another run like Notre Dame had last year going all the way to the championship game. So I've got the Ducks advancing. I thought that was a big drive for Dante Moore at the end of the Iowa game. I know they're banged up, but I think they'll get some time to get healthier. And even something to keep an eye on is Evan Stewart could be back. DeCorian Moore, does he get back healthy enough for a playoff push? That was something that the Ohio State Buckeyes really benefited, was health, getting healthy at the right time. That could be the Oregon Ducks this season.
We'll get to that matchup in a moment. Down the bracket, projected ACC champ Miami against Texas Tech, a battle of two Adidas schools. Who you got there?
So this one, I'm going to go so Miami's the big shocker, right? Like, how are you in this bracket? Well, if they are gifted a chance to play extra football, I think they take the most of it because they'll be given a new lease on life. And as good as Texas Tech's defense has been, I worry a little bit about Baron Morton. Now, I worry about Carson Beck, too, because he had 4 interceptions in their loss to Louisville, and he had the game-ending interception against SMU. But I do think this would be a lower-scoring affair that Miami could win. So I'll put the Miami Hurricanes as an upset special in that first round.
Okay. In the 10-7 matchup, Texas against Ole Miss, Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin renewing pleasantries. Who you got there?
So I've got Ole Miss advancing. I think people look at Ole Miss and they say, well, they haven't really beaten anybody. They really showed me something with that win against Oklahoma on the road. Trinidad Chambliss is a great story. I think it's a big reason, why they're having the success. The defense has gotten better. They've been good enough. And I still think it's a little too soon for Arch Manning to have that type of success on the road in the playoffs. So I'll go ahead and put the Rebels advancing on.
All right, let's move to the quarterfinals. Georgia against Alabama, tied, beat the Dogs in the regular season. Who wins the rematch?
So I'm going to say Bama gets the best of them again. I do. Georgia's defense is last in the SEC in sacks. They only have 11, and that was 3 came from this weekend. They were 8 before this weekend. I think the defense is Georgia's liability, and Alabama has not been able to run the football too effectively, and they're not great at protecting Ty Simpson, but he has been clutch as it gets. I think similar to the game that we saw in Athens, I think you would see Alabama be able to score early and often. And I know it came to a screeching halt, all that scoring, but I do think Alabama's defense would have enough to slow down Georgia. So I've got Alabama knocking off the Dogs.
All right, next quarterfinal matchup, Oregon against Ohio State for a second year in a row. Buckeyes beat the Ducks by 20 last year in this round. There was no reseeding. We do not have reseeding this season yet, or we won't have it this year at all. Maybe in year 3 we'll have reseeding. Who wins, the Bucks or the Ducks?
So I mentioned Oregon being a huge play for them, that big win on the road at Iowa, but I don't think they have enough. And I mentioned some of the injuries. They're going to have to get some of those guys back to even have a chance in this game. Kenyon Sadiq was another one. Harkey, their one of their better offensive linemen, was out as well. But this is where I do think Ohio State, and talking to Ryan Day in Las Vegas at Big Ten Media Days, he was big on load management. So I expect Ohio State to be fresh throughout, even through the Michigan rivalry game and a Big Ten championship game. I think they'll be ready to go, and I do think Ohio State does look like the more complete team than the Oregon Ducks. So I've got the Buckeyes moving on.
All right, keep moving through the bracket. Miami against Texas A&M. Who's advancing in your bracket in this one?
So this is where Miami's kind of luck runs out. This would be against Texas A&M. I do think Texas A&M is just a more complete team. Marcel Reed, who is in the Heisman conversation, has really been excelling lately. He's got a great, a cast of characters at wide receiver, 2 of the best out there that they got in the transfer portal, and Craver and Concepcion. So I think their defense, too, is good enough to keep Carson Beck off balance, maybe even some interceptions from him. I have the Aggies advancing.
All right, last quarterfinal matchup, Ole Miss against Indiana. Who moves on?
Man, I'm not going against Kirk Cignetti. Are you kidding me?
No.
That guy has his game ready to go on the biggest stages. And I what a war of words, because Lane Kiffin would give some fuel to the fire. He'd probably give him some bulletin board material, and that would be too much. Fernando Mendoza and company, plus a defense that I think is underappreciated. I think Indiana would be good enough to slow down Trinidad Chambliss and that Ole Miss offense. So I've got Indiana moving on.
All right, so the top 4 seeds moving on to the semifinals. Alabama versus Ohio State. Who's playing for the Natty?
This is a good matchup. I think it'd be a really fun game. It's interesting because so many of these matchups are either rematches from great matchups we've seen in the last decade or championship games like we saw back in the Sugar Bowl. I'm going to go with the Buckeyes. I do think they're the better team than Alabama. They've got the best offensive player in the country, and who knows, maybe it's not even the guy that we thought coming in the season in Jeremiah Smith. It might be Julian Sain, and it might be Carnell Tate. They've got offensive weapons all over the place, plus Caleb Downs. I've got the Buckeyes moving on.
Yeah, Julian Sain completing passes more than 80%, best in FBS. Other semifinal, Texas A&M against Indiana. Who advances to play for the national championship?
So I think this would be an awesome game. I think it'd be great coaches. I'm going to give the edge to Texas A&M. I think they can knock off Indiana, and I do wonder if Indiana, I don't know if they have the depth of athletes and across the board that you would have at Texas A&M. Their offensive line is really good. Their defense is pretty nasty. Cassius Howe, leading sack artist in the SEC. I think he could make a life a little bit rough, much like we saw against Penn State I think Fernando Mendoza could be running for his life. So I got the Aggies advancing.
I was hoping you were going to have Indiana and Ohio State, a rematch of potentially the Big Ten championship. Okay, so for all the marbles here, Texas A&M against Ohio State for the Natty. Who's winning it all in Miami?
Full disclosure, I kind of didn't want a rematch. So I was like, I want to see fresh blood. I want to see new matchups. And I would love to see a new national champion, but I think this Ohio State team is better than last year's team. They are more complete. Julian Sayin is playing better than Will Howard. I think he's going to break the single season completion percentage, which is 77.4. He's over 80. I mentioned all the talent all over the place. I think Ohio State's the most complete team in college football, so I say they go back to back.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. BMAC did pick them to win last week, so I don't know if we want to keep piling on Ohio State, because you know I'm going to pick them as an Ohio State Buckeye fan. So I'm a little nervous here. If everybody's picking Ohio State, sometimes that doesn't bode well.
I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't sweat it. You guys look like, although last year everybody was doubting them and they kind of used that chip against their shoulder.
Yeah.
They're complete, man. They're really good. Really, really good.
Allowing just about 7 points per game. They are looking to win back-to-back Natties. First team to do so since Georgia in 2021 and 2022. Former ACC Player of the Year, Danny Cannell, our guest picker this week, picking the bracket breakdown. Danny, thanks.
Thanks, Akeem.
Always a fun exercise to go through. Danny Cannell, one of the best in the business, and he is picking Ohio State. They are the favorites. Shortest odds at plus 195, followed by Indiana. Indiana chasing their first football title in school history. As I mentioned, last school to win back-to-back Natties, Georgia, in 2021 and 2022.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
No. That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount+.